Welcome, curious minds, to a tale that begins with a simple fishing trip and unravels into something far greater than imagined. Picture this: a quiet riverside morning, the mist hovering over calm waters, until one man's discovery changes everything. An old army tank, submerged and forgotten, holds secrets buried deeper than its rusted exterior. What lies within? Why was it hidden? And what happens when curiosity pulls the past into the present? Stay with me as we dive into a story of mystery, bravery, and echoes from another time. Let's begin. I discovered an old army tank submerged in the river, intrigued and excited. I decided to pull it out, which got the whole town curious. Everyone wondered what secrets or treasures might be inside, but when I finally opened it, my face went white, and I knew right away I had to call the cops. But before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. Jack Reynolds, a local fisherman in his late 20s to early 30s, discovered the heavily rusted and mud-covered tank while casting his net in the river. Most days, Jack found fish or old boots snagged in his net, but today was different. He pulled the net and saw something metallic beneath the water. The sight of the partially submerged behemoth took his breath away, setting his mind racing about the history behind it. The tank, though aged and rusted, bore a sense of gravitas that hinted at its storied past. Jack immediately thought of calling the authorities, but hesitated. Driven by an insatiable curiosity, while dialing the local sheriff's number, he paused. Maybe I should check it out first, he thought, canceling the call. One look won't hurt, he murmured, deciding against immediate official involvement. He secured his equipment and resolved to explore the tank the next day. That night, Jack could hardly sleep, haunted by visions of what secrets the tank might hold. Larry-eyed but fueled by excitement, he got up before the first light broke through. At dawn, Jack returned with ropes, determined to get a better look inside the submerged tank. The morning fog lingered over the water, giving the scene an eerie but revitalizing chill. As he reached the spot, he wasted no time in setting up his gear, ready for the day's challenge. Struggling, he managed to attach the ropes in such a way as to start lifting the tank out of the water, his muscles straining under the effort. "Come on, you old rust bucket," Jack grunted through gritted teeth. As the tank emerged from the water, he noticed a faded military insignia on its side. Barely visible through the rust and grime, must be from the war era, Jack guessed, squinting to make out the details. His heart pounded with anticipation and trepidation. What could inside? Jack whispered to himself, imagining all sorts of possibilities. He took a deep breath and prepared to pry open the hatch. Jack enlisted the help of his friend Mike, a local mechanic with a knack for restoring old machinery. They spent hours together cleaning and examining the exterior, looking for an entry point. With every scrub and scrape, the tank revealed more history. They eventually PRI it open using a crowbar and all their strength. "Almost there, keep pushing," Jack grunted, his muscles straining. The hatch gave a groan, then slowly creaked open. "Ugh, smells like it's been sealed for decades," Mike coughed. Inside, the darkness was thick and smelled of decay and neglect. "Looks like no one's been here in ages," Mike observed. Jack nodded. "Guess it's up to us to see what's left behind." They exchanged a wary look before deciding who would venture in first. "Allo," Jack volunteered, feeling a mix of excitement and fear. Mike nodded, handing him the flashlight. Jack volunteered to go in first, squeezing through the narrow, rusted opening. Mike kept a watchful eye from outside, ready to assist if needed. The light danced over rotting seats, tarnished metal, and ancient controls that hadn't been touched in decades. He reached out to touch one of the controls, feeling the cold, rusted metal beneath his fingers. Each discovery made him more eager to explore further. Meanwhile, Mike was busy outside trying to piece together the serial numbers and other markings on the exterior. He hoped to trace the tank's origin and perhaps even its last mission. "If we can figure out where this thing has been, we might solve the mystery," Mike said to himself. He took photos of the markings, determining to conduct a thorough research later. He felt an odd excitement at the prospect. His calls to a local historian and some internet research began to yield fragments of the history of the particular model of the tank. He learned that it was a Sherman M4 used extensively during World War II. Each new fact fueled his determination. We've got a real piece of history here, Mike thought, his excitement growing. This specific tank had been reported missing during a significant battle decades earlier, adding an air of mystery and ending revelation. A missing tank, this just keeps getting better, Mike said, smiling to himself. The more he discovered, the more questions arose. Why had it ended up in the river? Who had left it there? He couldn't wait to share these new findings with Jax. Phone rang with an unknown number, disrupting their investigation. He hesitated before answering. "Hello," he said cautiously. The voice on the other end identified themselves as the local historian. Jack's heart raced as he listened. "I heard about your find," the historian said. "I'm very interested and would love to assist. Could I visit tomorrow?" Jack exchanged a quick look with Mike, nodding in agreement. "Absolutely," he replied. It was the historian, eager to know more about the tank and offering to visit for a closer inspection. They made plans to meet Dr. Emily Carter, who promised to bring additional resources to help piece together the tank's past. The historian, Dr. Emily Carter, arrived the next morning, her eyes wide with excitement and curiosity. "Good morning, gentlemen," she greeted them, extending her hand. Jack and Mike introduced themselves and led her to the tank. "This is incredible," Dr. Carter remarked as she examined the exterior. Dr. Carter immediately began documenting everything. She snapped photos from different angles, ensuring every detail of the tank was captured. Dr. Carter explained that the tank was a rare model. This particular tank, a Sherman M4, is believed to have been part of a classified mission during the war, she said, her voice filled with excitement. Mike whistled. "A classified mission, huh?" "This just got interesting," he remarked. Jack felt a thrill of anticipation. Dr. Carter speculated about the tank's potential contents. It might contain documents or artifacts that could shed light on the mission and those who operated it, she suggested. Jack's eyes widened. "You mean historical documents?" he asked. Dr. Carter nodded. "Exactly. Anything we find could be of immense significance," she explained. The trio prepared to dive deeper into the investigation. Dr. Carter's expertise was invaluable, guiding their every move. "We'll need to be methodical," she advised. With Dr. Carter's knowledge, they felt more confident than ever. Jack, Mike, and Dr. Carter gathered around the tank for another attempt to explore its interior. "This time, let's be extra thorough," Dr. Carter instructed. With Dr. Carter's guidance, they methodically cleared away the remaining debris inside the tank. Jack nodded, carefully moving aside tangled wires and broken seats. Mike used a crowbar to pry loose, stubborn pieces. The tank's interior slowly became more accessible, revealing hidden compartments and crevices. Amid the chaos, Dr. Carter stumbled upon an old rusted safe bolted to the floor. "Look at this!" she called out. Jack and Mike hurried over. "A safe? And here?" Jack asked, incredulous. Dr. Carter nodded. "It's securely bolted." "Must have been important," she remarked. Mike examined the lock. Dr. Carter studied the safe's exterior, trying to decipher any markings or clues. They tried to open the safe, but it was securely locked. Jack handed him another tool. "Try this," he suggested. Despite their efforts, the safe remained firmly sealed. Dr. Carter frowned. They were determined to break it open and discover what secrets it held. Dr. Carter suggested they take the safe back to her lab, where she had tools that could help. "We have better equipment there." They carefully lifted the heavy safe, ensuring it was securely placed in the back of Mike's truck. As Jack and Mike transported the safe to Dr. Carter's lab, a car following them caught Jack's eye. "Hey, Mike, that car has been behind us for a while," Jack pointed out, trying to stay calm. Mike glanced in the rearview mirror. "You sure?" he asked, his grip tightening on the wheel. Jack nodded. Yeah, it's been at a distance, but always there, he added, feeling a growing sense of unease. Jack whispered his concern to Mike, who noted the car's license plate. It's GE 8912. Got it, Mike said softly, peering at the rearview mirror. They didn't want to take any chances. If it keeps following us, we'll know for sure something's up, Jack muttered. Mike nodded, his jaw set in determination. They exchanged a silent understanding, their senses heightened. Every turn and stop was now done with caution. Mike handed the safe over to Dr. Carter, trying to focus on the task at hand. While Dr. Carter worked on the safe, Jack and Mike took turns keeping an eye on the perimeter of her lab. Inside, they found a tightly wrapped bundle, the paper old and disintegrating at the touch. Handle with care, Dr. Carter advised. Jack reached out, his fingers gently pulling at the crumbling layers. What's inside? Mike asked, his curiosity piqued. The paper flaked away easily, exposing an intercase. Look at this, DRCT, Carter marveled, pulling out yellowed papers and trinkets. These must be decades old, Jack observed, examining a locket. Mike sifted through the papers. These could be important, he said. Jack's hands trembled as he lifted out the yellow. Photographs. The images were haunting. Soldiers with grim expressions, moments of camaraderie and battle scenes. This could tell us everything, she whispered, gingerly opening the cover. The documents detailed the tank crew's mission, one which had them deep behind enemy lines during the war. Look at this, Dr. Carter said, pointing to a map with red circled areas. They were really in the thick of it, Jack remarked, his voice filled with awe. The mission seemed critical, involving high stakes and dangerous terrain. These men went through hell, Meek added. Jack nodded, deep in thought as he skimmed the orders. Each entry painted a vivid picture of the crew's bravery and the grim realities of war. We fought hard today, Jack read, his voice growing softer with each line. Williams took a bullet for me. I don't know if he'll make it. Mike's eyes widened. These guys were heroes, he said softly. Dr. Carter nodded solemnly, reflecting on the sacrifices made. The diary was more than a record. It was a testament to their courage and resilience. One entry mentioned a top. Secret item they were transporting. A detail that made Dr. Carter's eyes widen with realization. Listen to this, Jack said. Our orders are clear. Safeguard the package at all costs. Mike leaned in, intrigued. What could it be? He wondered aloud. Dr. Carter looked up from her notes. Whatever it is, it must have been crucial, she speculated. The mention of a secret item added a new layer of mystery to their discovery. The item was never described in detail, but was implied to be of great national importance. Everything in here points to it being something huge, Jack said, flipping through the pages. Die before letting it fall into enemy hands, Mike added, his tone serious. Dr. Carter nodded in agreement. We need to find out what it was, she said, her voice filled with determination. The stakes were clearly high for the tank crew and now for them. Their final mission was to safeguard this item at all costs, a mission they never completed. Our last stand, Jack read, his voice heavy with emotion. We have to ensure the package stays hidden until reinforcements arrive. Mike's brows furrowed. They must have been desperate, he remarked. Dr. Carter nodded and brave, she added. The diary's entries became more frantic, a desperate attempt to fulfill their duty against insurmountable odds. The final entry suggested that the crew got trapped and decided to submerge the tank in the river to keep the item hidden until help arrived. We have no choice, Jack read aloud. We must hide it and ourselves. The words were final, filled with resolve. Mike shook his head in disbelief. They went to such lengths, he muttered. Dr. Carter's eyes softened. They were willing to make the ultimate sacrifice, she said quietly. Dr. Carter carefully opened the leaden box to find several vials of a clear, viscous liquid. What is this? Mike asked, eyes wide. Jack's heart pounded as he peered inside. It's some kind of chemical, he guessed. Dr. Carter's hand steadied as she lifted one of the vials for closer inspection. "This is no ordinary substance," she remarked, her voice barely above a whisper. They all sensed the gravity of their find. Jack and Mike sifted through the documents. That accompanied the vials. "This says it's an experimental bioweapon," Jack read aloud, the words catching in his throat. Mike's eyes widened in horror. "A bioweapon here!" he exclaimed. Dr. Carter nodded solemnly, her fingers tracing the faded text. "These were desperate measures," she said. The realization that they were dealing with a dark remnant of wartime brought a heavy silence over the group, shuddering at the implications. Jack slowly understood why the tank had been submerged. They wanted to hide this, he muttered, pieces falling into place. Mike nodded, his face pale. "Makes sense." "They were protecting us from this monstrosity," he said. Dr. Carter's serious expression echoed their thoughts. "They did what they had to," she added quietly. The tank wasn't just a relic. It was a grave holding the horrors of war. "We need to alert the authorities," Dr. Carter said, breaking the silence. Jack and Mike exchanged glances, nodding in agreement. "This is way beyond us," Jack admitted. Mike dialed the emergency number, explaining the situation with urgency. "They'll send a team right away," he informed the group. The gravity of their find weighed heavily on them as they waited. "We did the right thing," Jack reassured, though his voice wavered with unease. Jack stood by, pale and shaken, as he watched the relay of professionals arrive to safeguard the relics of a forgotten past. Each motion was meticulous, each word carefully chosen. Mike stayed close, his eyes trained on the operation. "I can't believe what we found," he murmured. Dr. Carter tried to offer some comfort. "The world needed to know," she said, yet the weight of their discovery lingered. Authorities arrived promptly, taking control of the site and ensuring the bioweapon was secure. "We're here to handle it from here," the lead officer said, shaking Jack's hand. Jack nodded, stepping aside. "Thank you," he managed to say. Mike watched as specialized units carefully removed the vials, each motion deliberate and cautious. Dr. Carter provided them with all necessary information, her professional composure hiding the anxiety she felt beneath the town buzzed with the revelation, everyone speculating about the hidden wartime secrets. "Did you hear about the tank?" one local asked another. "Crazy, right? A bioweapon of all things," came to reply. Jack could hardly walk through town without someone stopping him for details. "You're a hero, Jack," more than one person said. But Jack felt far from heroic. The weight of what they had discovered gnawed at him. Jack's discovery quickly became a local legend, a story told for generations. "Remember when Jack pulled that tank from the river?" folks would say, eyes wide with remembered wonder. Children asked him to recount the tale, their faces alight with curiosity. What was it like inside, they'd ask. Jack kept the details vague, focusing more on the adventure rather than the dark reality. It was a story that would never F, and yet Jack couldn't help but wonder what other mysteries lay hidden beneath the surface of the river. "You think there's more down there?" Mike would ask, eyes twinkling. Jack would shrug, a small smile playing on his lips. "Who knows? That river seen a lot of history," he'd reply. The tank's discovery had solved one mystery, but left countless others in its wake, each waiting to be uncovered.